Hello, everybody. My name is Nicola James, and I'm an occupational psychologist with a specialism in neuropsychology. And I'm working with eAnsYst on providing a webinar on women with dyslexia. So, thank you very much for your time. I'll just give you a bit of an introduction about women with dyslexia. So, Women with Dyslexia is an online tool which has been developed by Lexxic. Lexxic, some of you might have heard of, is a group of psychologists, and we've been working for about 10 years UK wide on providing diagnostic assessments, workplace assessments, and support coaching and training for adults in the workplace and in higher education. And as a result of all of our experience, we pulled together the Women with Dyslexia tool. So I'll give you a bit of background on this. So eAnsYst is very kindly working with us, and they are a provider of assistive technology, and they are individuals that are providing the Women with Dyslexia product, hence the webinar today. So give you a bit of background. So this was me. This is me in university. Um, I always compared myself to my brother, who always got A grades. He found it so easy, and I would just be sitting there working twice as hard as him, watching him go out with his friends, come back, get another A, and I would just be like, I'll be getting C's. Um, I generally do, better in my presentations, but just found it really hard to get my thoughts on the paper. And I would read, and I'd try and cram all the words in my head, and I would just end up crying. Just couldn't get the information into my head, and I just knew something was wrong. And it got to the point where one day I got into university through clearing. I got into a psychology course, and that time they needed 18 points. Um, and I was just doing it, and I was just one day I did a presentation on the same subject that I wrote an essay on, and I nearly failed the essay, and I got an A in the presentation. And on the essay, she wrote, "You don't understand what you're talking about." And I just walked into her room, burst into tears, and said, "How can you say when you don't know what I'm talking about, when for the same information I presented differently, you've given me an A or a first?" Um, and so I just then knew that there was something wrong. So I took it into my own hands, and my parents very kindly paid for a diagnostic assessment. And surprise, surprise, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. So what then went through my head? It was a relief. And then instantly, because I was diagnosed in my early 20s, I just said, then why not earlier? Why did no one think about this earlier? Why me? Um, I think one of the things I've always been quite good verbally, and so I'd be able to talk on subjects. So I think that at the time people didn't realise, you know, maybe there was an issue, and I sort of just went through as average, but I had to work really, really hard to get the grades I got. And now I'm in my mid 30s, and Lexxic has just been developed around wanting to give back. And I went to University West of England. I came out with a 2-2 degree, and I got into a master's on occupational psychology just because I got diagnosed so late in my degree, and also because I just wrote them a letter and explained my circumstances. And so I got into Nottingham, which was, I was so chuffed about. And at that time, Margaret Harrington was running the Nottingham Dyslexia department, and she gave me coaching and she gave me training. And within about 12 hours of training, it changed my life. I just understood how to write an essay. I understood techniques about how to read information back to me, how to get my thoughts down on the paper. And the difference in my academic grades for my written work changed substantially during my master's degree, and they just got better and better as I introduced the softer skill strategies as well as the assistive technology strategies. And I just went, this is what I want to work in. I want to work in this area because the change it made to me made me go on a mission. So I set up Lexxic, and I went, oh, maybe I'd have a part-time job and just do dyslexia assessments. And it just grew from there. So um, and then so we set up Lexxic, and Lexxic now offers services for adults with dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, autistic spectrum disorder, ADHD, and I've got further qualifications in neuropsychology. So we do some neuropsychological assessments. and we operate in UK wide. And I was working, and we just found that we've never been necessarily that good at marketing ourselves, but the feedback we got for our support training and our softer skills was always, you know, people saying that we've changed their lives. And it was just almost me giving the skills to people that were given to me by Margaret. And it was just nice to see how, just with a little understanding and a little bit of a shift, people were sort of really helping them in their workplace and with their studies. So then what I wanted to do is I wanted to give access in a way that was different and was almost, you know, you go beyond boundaries for people who may be living in rural places or may not have had the dyslexia department that I had available to them. Or maybe people outside of the UK could have access to the strategies that we were delivering to our clients and they found so useful. And I was like, what's the best way of getting these online, and what's the best way of making these available to people? So what I did is I went, hey, not realizing about, you know, how much time and how much work it takes from taking the training that you're delivering onto a sort of e-learning based medium. So I was like, let's just film it. So I got a guy and he filmed me talking to the camera, and then I played it back, and I was like, as I'm dyslexic, I wouldn't watch this. It was too much about me to the camera, very pedagogic, not interactive, and you would just switch off because of the way we learn. And I was like, you know, I want to develop this online e-learning. It's almost like giving back what I was given. I was like, and it just allows, particularly with the people coming through today, the youngsters coming through today, it's just a much more flexible learning. I found that more women were taking up the face-to-face training than men, and I thought, well, maybe if they have a more discreet way of accessing the support, that might help them. And it just means it's just a more flexible learning style. We wanted to try and make stuff more cost effective, and we wanted to make sort of a multi-sensory platform that people could learn from. And we realized that just by filming me, it didn't work. So I was like, right, what can we do? So we actually approached a guy that did a lot of educational training videos, and he very much understood the process of taking our training material and putting it into a medium that was more story-based, that was more interactive, and particularly I was explaining to him, with an individual with dyslexia, it needs to be very multisensory as much as possible in this medium. And he suggested that perhaps we would use more of a story-based approach. And, you know, he said, I was saying, you know, because of the way that people learn, we just wanted something that was accessible online and could help sort of support some of the face-to-face tuition, which is also very valuable as well. So he looked at it and he said, basically, if you go for a story-based approach, then what you do is you interlink the stories of characters, which then sort of help to embed the learning, because people can then engage with the stories of characters in the different mediums we're training in, like looking at, you know, improving your reading, improving your writing, managing your organization, etc. And then if you maybe use psychologists to talk about the strategies that person's applying, and you also see that person, you know, struggling and then applying the strategies and seeing success, you start to get more of a multisensory learning environment. And then also what we do is you make it very visual, and then maybe have some download guides as well. And you're starting to see this content come alive. So this made me go, this sounds really good. And it's, you know, we wanted to make sure that it was professional, that it was interactive, integrative learning, and it was something where the quality of the content was of such a level that someone with dyslexia would engage with that medium. So we decided to take this on and go and develop an e-learning platform and trying to create something which would be useful to an individual with dyslexia and beyond, and people for other neurodifferences. And there's a recent study that's come out in 2015 which sort of talks about effective e-learning attributes for dyslexia, and we've very much applied a lot of these strategies across our platform, including things like multisensory learning, etc. And as you can see on the slide in front of you, there's a list of the various items which make this e-learning easy for a student with dyslexia. And we've quoted the study if you would like to sort of refer to it in more detail. So How did we develop this? We spent a long time. We spent about 5 years creating this, and it's a labour of love, and I think it's just my way of giving back to the world. And we wanted something that was high quality, and we also wanted something that was affordable. So we, together with the guy that was writing the script, we interviewed a lot of people with dyslexia, ADHD, dyspraxia, and we took the clients we'd worked with, and we just started to talk about their stories and their stories in their job roles and their stories in their part-time studies, and started to get an idea of the type of emotional language those people were using to describe their journeys. So words like being frustrated, or trying again, trying again. And what we did is we, based on real life stories, what we've done is we've got 4 modules: improving your reading, improving your writing, listening, note taking, and concentration, and managing your workload. And for each module, we have 2 characters which illustrate their struggles and also the strategies they've applied and found successful in these areas. And these characters are based on real life stories. And we've amalgamated the emotional journey as well in the learning journey, which helps engage the individual with dyslexia and other neurodifferences, because as they see themselves in the characters, and they see the emotional struggles the person is having, and they also see the successes with various different types of strategies. So, for example, in improving your reading, you might use developing a reading plan and a reading approach to reading more advanced documents, which then supports that person in taking the information in. Or in writing and planning an essay, you might use mind mapping strategies, etc. So we started to integrate this into the development of the modules. So we took all of our softer skills training that we were delivering face to face, and gradually we amalgamated all of the training into 4 modules. So I've said before, it's improving your reading, improving your writing, organising your workload, and listening, concentration, and note taking. So in improving your writing, you learn how to speed up your reading, make fewer mistakes, understand and remember more. We do touch on assistive technology, and we say this type of assistive technology might help you, but that's as far as it goes. You would need to refer out to an assistive technology trainer or online training to assist you with these. It's very much softer skills. And then for improving your writing, we talk about essential skills for writing and creating documents in professional scenarios. The modules have been built with a work-based edge. We have some people that do sort of part-time, maybe an HR person doing part-time study in CIPD. But because we've worked across organisations, so we've worked with Barclays, we've worked with Rolls-Royce, we've worked with the police, we've worked in higher education with staff, we've worked with nurses. So it's a very broad range of people that we've trained, and we tend to link into our occupational health. So we've got a broad range of strategies, but these strategies are aimed for more advanced learners. So the minimum qualification you would need, or level you would be at, would be GMVQ level 4. But to give you an idea, 50% of our clients have degrees. So this isn't for basic strategies, it's for more advanced strategies. And it does support students moving from education into the workplace, but this definitely has a workplace focus and flavour. Then organising your workload. We've looked at how to manage yourself, plan your time and organise your workload. And then with listening, concentration and note taking, we've talked about improving your listening, concentration and note taking while staying calm. So there's a bit of a mindfulness element in there as well. This gives you an idea of what the video looks like. So as you can see, we've got like chapter 3 for the reading modules, like making your documents easier to read, making a reading plan, improving your speed and accuracy, and reading and remembering. What we also have is we have these how-to guides as well. So what you have is you have more in-depth strategies that are told through the stories of the characters and the psychologists explaining the strategies. But if you have a more basic skill you need to know, for example, how to use a search function in Word, etc., you can actually pause the video and go to the how-to videos, which are for more basic skills. But so that we don't interrupt the flow of the training, we haven't put those skills in there because we've made the assumption that the majority of people will understand how to use those more simple functions. But again, it sort of provides that ability for the user to stop the video as and when they need. And this gives you an example of how to video, how to change the background color of the document in Word, which can help you make the text easier to read. And then what we have is we have a very detailed transcript. So as well as the training videos, which you can watch, and you can also read the text on the site, you can also have a transcript of the training. So it means that somebody also has a document that they can print, they can download, and they can highlight, which again helps to increase the variability in learning of these courses and being able to have a document. I know that I like to learn when I actually have a book. I actually like to watch stuff or listen to the audiobook so I can highlight the writing as well. And then what we also have is we have like a training plan where people after each module can write down the strategies they're going to use, and they can write down in the training plan, you know, when they're going to achieve this by, what the priority is, and if they've got any additional notes. So this helps them to apply the learning as well. It's of benefit to, it can be used on an app, and it can be used anywhere. It's available. It's short bite-sized chunks. So for example, what you tend to have for each module is you tend to have 6, 7, 8 chapters. Each module is an hour long, approximately, and then the how-to modules add on additional time. And what the person can do is they can watch all the modules and they can re-watch them, or maybe go back to certain chapters where they found some information useful. And we've basically amalgamated all of our support training. So in improving your reading and improving your writing also cover items like proofreading. And the only module that we would be looking to add to this collection would be a line managers module, and also a module for confidence, because we also tend to find that in our support training, that in the workplace confidence module is also something which people benefit from. But this covers all of the softer skill strategies that you would need in the workplace for a dyslexic user. And then what we find is that if we're looking at things like dyspraxia or ADHD, then we find that sometimes they take all the modules, or sometimes they might just take some of the modules. So with dyspraxia, they might use organising their workload and improving your writing. And with ADHD, they might use the listening, concentration, note taking, the organisational module, etc. The types of companies who've been using this with us are, we've worked with KPMG with this, Barclays, we've worked with nurses, doctors, government sector. So it's very, very varied who uses it. But as I said, just to reinforce that it's for people generally in office-based jobs, people who need to improve these skills in this area. It's not for basic reading, writing skills, spelling skills. It's definitely for somebody who is working with more advanced reading, more advanced writing, more advanced organisation, and more advanced sort of note-taking, etc. And as we've said before, students have also found this useful, and it really ticks the box on the transition between, you know, education and the workplace. It's cost effective. What we've gone for is we've invested quite a lot in this, but it's more a labour of love. So it's about trying to take this out to as many people as possible so that people can be given the skills which I've seen change a lot of people's lives. It's very easy to use, so you can stop, come back to it, etc. I actually do find as well that since we've been working with maybe more male-dominated professions like accountancy, before they weren't taking up the, say, face-to-face support training, but actually they take up the e-learning. So what we found is it's maybe because it's not so intense and it's more sort of private, you do find that men take the e-learning up more as well. We've also found that it's reduced the amount of face-to-face. Ideally, you know, you want people to have e-learning and face-to-face, but we have found it's reduced the amount of face-to-face. So what we find is if someone goes through the e-learning, rather than maybe having 12 hours of face-to-face, they actually go down to like 6 hours. So we found this a really useful, effective way for maximising our time and reducing the cost to the customer. And the feedback has been really good. So people that have looked at it and provided us quality feedback have just said that they found it really useful. They've gone back and rewatched it, and it's enabled them to apply the strategies. And for people that have had lots of face-to-face as well, they actually say they've gone back to it, and it just helps them refamiliarize themselves with some of the things that they've learned as well. And they're also finding that actually these strategies help people who don't have neurodiversity. So particularly the organisational module, you find that people with dyslexia are actually teaching their colleagues about these organisational strategies, because many students don't get taught organisational strategies, you know, for the workplace, etc. So it does go beyond the individual with the neurodiverse profile. So we sort of look at, you know, what is the cost of a module? So the RIP is £69 plus VAT for each module. And then the cost of all 4 modules, which means you get a cost reduction on all 4. We generally recommend you get all 4 if you have a dyslexic user, because they do actually intertwine and interlink with each other. That's £199 plus VAT. It's available through Access to Work as well. So eAnsys work with Access to Work, and you can get it through them via Access to Work. And we definitely encourage people that are Access to Work assessors to actually opt for trial access. The reason for this, if you actually look at the product and you look at it online, which you can just look on the online web, you'll see that the quality of the e-learning. So people like Remploy and stuff have come back and just said, you know, the quality is really high. So you really need to look at it and look at the modules to see how it can help people, because it is very much almost like BBC level in terms of the documentary and drama of the characters. It does really help the dyslexic user in terms of interacting with the learning. And this product's gone so far, whereas even though the scripting is based on real life stories, 80% of the people in the videos, the actors, actually have dyslexia. So, and as you'll see in the characters as well, a lot of people have dual conditions. So we talk about maybe someone with dyslexia, dyspraxia, difficulties, or dyslexia and ADHD. So it's quite a flexible product. We're in the early stages of you know, looking at things like the measures. So we have qualitative evidence of how this works, but we're also currently doing a study at the moment around looking at sort of the effectiveness from a qualitative perspective as well. So I'll be able to get you that information once that's completed. So that's quite a short webinar. We would encourage you to contact eAnsys if you want trial access, and we can organise that via eAnsys. So you probably will have Jay Cochrane's email on there, and then you can have a look at it, and then you can see how you could recommend it with some of the people that you might see through Access to Work. And as we said, we've gone for a lower cost pricing model so we can get this out to as many people as possible. So that's the webinar on the product. So thank you for listening. It makes me cry actually, because it's to tell everyone about it, it's quite moving. It's been such a journey, believe me, with the technical stuff, but I hope it does make a difference to people. So that's the end of the webinar in terms of me speaking. So if you have any questions, then what you can do is you contact eAnsys. So that's Jay Cochrane. His name is spelled like that, Cochrin, and he can work with me in sorting you out free access to have a look at the product. I can't see any questions coming through, so I'll wait a few minutes, and then if nothing comes through, then thank you very much for listening. And if you want to go and replay that video, you can just go to www.winwithdyslexia.com, and the video is on there. And you can also just sign in and get trial access to just the first module. But if you want access to the whole modules, we can organise temporary access for you. Okay, I can't see any questions coming through. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you find it useful. I'll stop showing the screening now. Okay, have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.